Today's guest is the leading expert on AI safety.
Anything super intelligent, we cannot control. You cannot indefinitely control, understand, predict something smarter than you. If you're not controlling it, you're not in charge, and you're not deciding what's going to happen to you.
Over the last 15 years, he's studied how intelligent systems learn, adapt, and make decisions. But more importantly, the point at which humans lose control.
Leaders of those companies secretly want government to step in and stop them so they can not lose the race, keep what they have, and stay alive and be rich.
While most people see AI as a tool for productivity or profit, he poses an uncomfortable question. What if artificial intelligence is the last thing we ever create? If Sam Altman does reach AGI with OpenAI, what does his life look like?
If I'm right, he has an uncontrolled superintelligence and we're all dead.
In this episode, we'll dive into the challenges of containing superintelligence, expose the lies and unsafe practices of big tech companies, and explore if AI will solve all of humanity's problems or create a future worse than extinction.
There's a possibility that it can recreate dead people and bring all the possible people into existence just to torture them, as long as you have a DNA sample or brute force all possible DNA sequences. You may be given immortality, but you are suffering terribly. You wish you were dead.
Dr. Roman Yampolskiy. Welcome to the Jack Neel Podcast.
Thank you for inviting me.
Dr. Roman, everyone's racing to build AGI. You've said we have a 99.99% chance of extinction from AI. What do you mean?
So we need to distinguish different types of AI. We have AI tools, which are awesome and helpful. We building artificial general intelligence, AGI, human level intelligence. And soon after, we'll get super intelligence systems better than anyone, any human in any domain. We should continue building awesome tools. They're very helpful, amazing economic benefit. We can probably deal with something close to human level, but anything super intelligent, we cannot control. You cannot indefinitely control, understand, predict something smarter than you. And at that point, if you're not controlling it, you're not in charge, and you're not deciding what's going to happen to you.
So why exactly, in your view, is controlling AI so much harder than people think it is?
So most people don't think about control at all to begin with. Historically, the first 50, 60 years of AI research was about just how do we make it work? Nothing worked. For 50 years, we barely got narrow systems to do basics. It started working about 10 years ago, and people started looking at safety issues. Initially, it's about simple problems we already understand. Data privacy, algorithmic bias, deepfakes. You can make some progress in that space so people feel optimistic. Okay, we're making progress in AI safety. But as we don't have today AI systems that advanced, nothing is super intelligent yet. It's very hard to do research on them, to understand what those systems are capable of. And so very few people are actually directly looking at that problem, which is the hardest one. If you abstract it away, if you just look at different agents of different capability, take, ants, squirrels versus humans, there is a huge cognitive gap. They don't understand what we're doing. They don't understand why we're doing what we do. And there is nothing they can do if we decide to take them out. It's going to be very similar, just the cognitive gap will be much bigger.
I guess, is there anything that we're doing particularly wrong in the way that we're building it that would make it difficult to control?
We are not engineering it. First 50 years of AI research was about engineering. We had knowledge engineers encode information about specific domains. This is how we play chess. This is why I do this opening. So we understood what the system was trained to do, how it worked. It was a decision tree. You can look at the decisions and go, if this happens, that will happen. We stopped that. We started basically growing those systems. You take an architecture, you give it lots of data, all of internet data, you give it lots of compute, and then you see what happened. It self-organizes, learns patterns in the data you provided, and then we study it to try to understand what did we just grow? What is this artifact capable of? So it's unsafe because we're not explicitly making it safe. After the model is trained, there is a post-processing step where we go, let's put some filters on it. Let's make sure it never talks about this dangerous topic. It never says this offensive word, but it's just filters on top of a very dangerous model.
So do humans actually control AI anymore? Or are we just kind of approving what it tells us?
So they're still not smarter than us. So in many ways, we are still deciding, for one, we're deciding to shut them down if we don't like what they do. We still have that capability. It will not always be the case. At some point, you won't be able to shut it down. So right now, we have some tools, narrow tools, and we are completely in control with those. We understand exactly what they're doing. You have a program playing chess. You can always turn it down. You may not understand specifically what it's trying to do with every move, but you know it's going to win a game of chess. You know where it's going with its plan. Large language models are more general. They are harder to predict, and so no, we can't control them fully. They say things they're not supposed to say, they give advice they shouldn't be giving, they lie, they cheat, they do things creators of those systems don't want them to do. But they're still not smarter than those people. That will change. And it may change very soon.
I guess it seems like to me that we would be at a place where humans kind of have this final approval, but the AI is actually like running a lot of the simulations to make sure it's safe and kind of like testing a lot of the things. Like if you're using an AI to, I don't know, select candidates for a job, maybe like say there are 1,000 candidates, it's maybe giving you the top 5 and you kind of sign off on the top 5, but you're not really in the decision making of how it got there. Like, wouldn't that imply that we've already lost a lot of the control of the AI development and kind of making the safety measures to begin with?
So there are different degrees of safety. Again, we can talk about something like discrimination within hiring process. And if a system just gives you top 5 candidates, you don't know if a decision was made based on some illegal categories or not. So you have to review all the candidates, see what the decisions were. And for something so specific, we can probably figure out what weights were assigned to different subcategories. We're talking more about, can it come up with a dangerous new technology? Can it do something which impacts all of humanity in a possibly existential way? And the problem is we don't know how to test for that. We know how to test narrow systems because they're edge cases. If you're playing, again, some sort of game, you can try it with an empty board with 2 queens, you kind of know what to expect. When you're talking about a general system making decisions over all possible domains, and it's smarter than you just don't know what questions to ask. If you're lucky and you stumble on some problem, you detect a bug of some kind and you fix it, you can report, we found a problem, we fixed it. But you cannot tell me that it has no remaining problems.
So what's the point of no return? Like what capability, once achieved, makes turning back impossible?
It's likely generality when it comes to science and engineering research. So if a system can work on the next generation of AI independently, you begin this self-improvement, recursive self-improvement process where humans are no longer part of a loop. And at that point, anyone who's running that system is generating more capable AI. They can do it independently. They can have backups of this process. So at that point, it would be almost impossible for us to intervene and shut it down.
And do you see that as a moment, like a single moment, or do you see that as something that's already gradually happening?
It's a gradual process. We're starting to automate different parts of research. So there are now AIs which look at different model architectures. There are models which can decide what data sets to train on or generate new data for training. But still, there are humans in a loop who make most decisions. So we still can stop today.
Right. Okay. But you're concerned with our ability to stop predominantly. That makes sense.
We also have no desire to stop. No one's stopping. It's the actual opposite process. There is an arms race, and we just saw federal government say we need to expedite this process. So the prediction markets are telling us we're like 2 years away from AGI, and there are people saying we need to accelerate. This is not fast enough.
Yeah, I was looking at that. I think it's Kalshi as the main one that says it's a 72% odds that we hit AGI, artificial general intelligence, by 2030. And if we hit AGI, it implies, like you're saying, that AI is as smart as humans. Why do you use prediction markets to kind of galvanize your thesis there? Like, why is that kind of like a big reason for your thesis?
It's the best tool we have for predicting future. People bet real money on their beliefs. You get some insider information. So let's say there was a lab who have gotten to that point, or they see they're going to get there. I'm sure some insiders will bet on a prediction market, make a lot of money on it, but as a result, the information leaks to the public.
So is there anything we can do to stop it?
Stop superintelligence? Depends on who we are. So you individually probably can't, but people at the top have a lot of power in that respect. Leaders of top labs can get together and decide to just monetize existing technology. Government leaders can certainly make a lot of it illegal. If all of us came together and said, this is dangerous, nobody should be doing this experiment on us, we don't agree, we would have enough pressure to apply to both large corporations and governments. But the state of the art right now is that very few people even know about the problem. The large labs are racing to secure leadership positions in that space, secure funding. And at least US government is going in the opposite direction, removing any obstacle.
Just so people understand the incentive structure here, if Sam Altman does reach AGI with OpenAI, what does his life look like?
If I'm right, he has an uncontrolled superintelligence and we're all dead. That's why you don't build general superintelligence. You will not benefit from it. You will not control it. Doesn't matter who builds it first. Everyone gets screwed by it.
What do you think he thinks his life will be like? Do you think he thinks he'll be a trillionaire, king of the world?
Well, there is a small chance he'll be the one who brought this godlike entity into existence. So that's kind of cool, I guess.
Do you think we're alive at the most interesting moment in human history?
It seems like it. Quite a few technologies we're developing are not just inventions, they're meta-inventions. We're creating virtual worlds. We're creating new intelligences, new species. So nothing like that ever happened before.
I think the future looks bleak. And with a lot of these AI safety or AI expert chats from people like you or people that are kind of large in your field, it seems like a lot of doom, but people don't really understand the ways in which AI is already affecting us. So like, how do you think, or what's one way that AI is already changing our behavior in a way that we shouldn't be okay with?
I see it, for example, with our students. Students basically at this point use AI tools to do their assignments, and most of them don't even see what the outputs are. They just submit it as finished homework.
Do you think it's making us dumber?
Well, I hope they never become doctors or engineers.
Right. What are some other ways the AI is ruining our lives, like right now?
You can look at social media, the algorithms which decide what to show you. They definitely are not giving you the best, most educational content. It's a lot of kind of clickbait nonsense, conspiracy theories.
How about like all the ways that you can think of? Because people talk about we're already taking jobs. People are kind of becoming programmed like the algorithms, like you're mentioning. Like, what are all the ways you see it affecting us in this current moment?
Pretty much anything. Anything you do is now decided by algorithms. How I got to this studio, a GPS algorithm decided what path I'm going to take. So even trivial things like that. Was I going to a more dangerous frozen highway, or was I driving on a safer road? All of that is now out of my hands.
Do you see that as a problem?
Well, I made it here, so clearly the algorithm made a good decision. But if tomorrow it decides to take me out, maybe not.
Is that an aspect of AI safety that you focus on specifically with AI making us dumber? I have here like it's removing our capacity for independent thought, decision-making, growth. Essentially, it's like becoming our parents.
I don't focus on it, but it is a big problem. I think Ted Kaczynski talked about this level of dependence. You do stop practicing certain skills. So I don't remember any phone numbers, for example, because my phone does. Again, I don't know how to get here or how to get home because my GPS takes care of it. But I still use my brain sometimes, and I use AI to help me make better decisions. In a way, it's awesome because people who are not experts in many domains, investing, health, can get excellent advice for cheap and improve their lives. But if you allow this to make you dependent, to outsource all decisions, it's not obvious what you contribute in that equation. If a system makes decisions, why are you even there?
Is AI already replacing some jobs permanently?
It's been doing it for decades. There is no telephone operators. Then I make a call. I don't call a travel agent to book my tickets.
How about recently? Like past year?
I think many companies fired or stopped hiring junior programmers. I know we are having a hard time finding internships, co-ops for students.
Do you think it's objectively lowered the number of jobs? Because people kind of have this false idea that it will just create new jobs in the future.
So right now it's still creating new jobs. There are new things you can do with AI which never existed before. But the problem is long term, if it gets to human level, every new job will also be automatable. So that process of just replacement and retraining will stop.
Do you really see it as replacing every single job?
Anything where you want a human to do it for you, you'll keep that, like oldest profession. If you prefer human females, you can keep them.
I guess something I thought about was maybe like a hostess at a restaurant. You know, it's like, it's not a job we necessarily require, but an AI might not replace it because we just want a hostess at a restaurant.
Again, so it's a preference thing. You'll have fancy restaurants where like they still don't take credit cards. You pay cash and they have a human hostess. And another one, it's much more affordable. You have a robot hostess. Why not?
I guess what's your just macro thesis on job replacement in general? Like what's the part of it that people aren't seeing?
So individually, everyone thinks their job will not be automated because what they're doing is so magical and special. And Uber drivers say it and professors say it, and they're all wrong. And the main kind of argument I'm trying to make is that that's not the big problem we need to worry about. You losing your job is the least of your concerns. If we create general superintelligence, you lose everything.
I have this tweet from Twitter or from X. It says, the dumbest person you know is being told you're absolutely right by ChatGPT. What creates this self-assuring bias in GPT?
They are trained to make human rate them high. And usually we provide good feedback, then the system makes us feel good, compliments us. If a system told you you're dumb and not worthy, it probably would not get high rankings. So it reinforces this positive feedback cycle.
When you say high rankings, what do you mean?
Then they test the system. They test different models. They test them on humans. And the human go, how much do you like this answer? And you go, 6 out of 10.
So they're not geared at truth. They're geared at which answer the people preferred.
We know that evaluations like that simply don't work. Academia is another example. Faculty evaluations are well known to correlate with grades I give. If I give everyone an A, I get excellent evaluations, regardless of what they actually learned. It's the same thing.
It's really fascinating. How do you think this aspect of the models, how do you think this will have an impact on humanoid robots, maybe, like embodied AI, like this self-assuring bias? Like, do you think it will have any other implications anywhere with this kind of incentive alignment?
Well, the models we create right now would be eventually put into robots as brains, so the same thing will transfer. I don't know if they're gonna just be very kind and nice to you all the time, but the same thing could be expected.
What are some of the most important breakthroughs in AI recently that's important for people to understand?
We no longer need to have breakthroughs. We have a scaling hypothesis, which allows us just add more compute, just add more data, meaning you can convert dollars directly to more intelligence. And there is a formula telling you how much money you need to get to a certain level of capability. So if before we asked how long before AGI, I can ask how much before AGI. So if you give me $1 trillion of compute today, I can probably train AGI today. Next year, I will just need 100 billion. And every year it gets cheaper and cheaper because you have exponential growth and cheapness of compute.
And you don't see that plateauing?
Not yet. Many people argued that it's coming to an end, but with the latest releases, developers of those models are saying not only is it not slowing down, there is no diminishing returns, it's at all stages, pre-training, post-training, every aspect of what we do to create those models is subject to scaling.
In December 2024, Anthropic ran a simulation that showed in multiple scenarios AI would choose to blackmail a human rather than being shut down. In one AI simulation, a model chose to let a human die instead of being shut off. From your perspective, is this something we can fix easily, or is that a serious warning sign?
So this specific example can be fixed. The general tendency of models to make decisions based on all relevant factors, the game theoretic aspect of it cannot be removed. That's what intelligence is. Any other person in the same situation would do the same thing. It's literally the right decision. It's just not a very good one if you are human.
So we can't prevent AI from making the objective right decision.
We're training them to make good theoretic decisions. In fact, a lot of training is in games like poker, where bluffing, lying, is a requirement of winning strategy. If you don't lie in poker, you cannot win. So to play optimal games, and this is obviously only using games as a sandbox, but the real application is business negotiations, war, economic trade-offs. You need to be able to blackmail, you need to be able to lie, you need to be able to engage in those tools of negotiations.
So does it concern you the way in which we train AI, giving it all the evil, all the manipulation tactics, lying, cheating? Are we building it to be like a psychopath?
It's not helping that we're training it on all the data on the internet. It's definitely not a well-filtered data set. But I think even if somebody took the time to filter it and train it on more nice data at the end, if it was competitive, it would still have those drives. It's a logical decision in certain situations. If you need to, let's say, save your life, what would you not do to get there? You probably promise money, promise safety, promise whatever to your kidnappers, for example, even if that would be a very bad outcome.
So you just think it's a key component of intelligence itself to make?
We are creating a very rational, very intelligent agent which doesn't care about us. So if it needs to sacrifice humanity for obtaining its goals, that's exactly what it's going to do.
Do you think just evil is inherently rational?
So I think evil is more about doing bad things for no reason. Here, it's for a good reason. You may disagree with the reason, but there is definite logic behind it.
I guess evil to humans could be the most rational thing.
Again, if there is a reason, so I'm not capable of predicting what the system is trying to achieve. There are existential risks based on it trying to do something with this planet, with our atoms we're made out of, for things we don't fully agree with, understand, but it makes sense. Then there is suffering risks, where it just goes, I want to torture humans. There is no obvious reason, but this is something I want to do forever.
Yeah, explain that to me. Why would an AI want to torture humans instead of just killing all of them?
Again, I have no reason why a superintelligence would do anything. I cannot predict it, and that's the biggest argument we're trying. Everyone's always asking, how would you do it? How would you kill everyone?
I guess what's the theories around it that are compelling?
It's, again, very unlikely scenario. Most likely it will not happen. There is possibility that some of the malevolent payload and training data is misunderstood. Quite a few philosophical movements, religious movements, see suffering as good. You become a better person, you go to better places as a result of it. So it could be misunderstood as really giving you benefit of good training. But again, I don't have a good reason for torturing everyone.
Can you explain just the term malevolent payload and how it applies to like superintelligence?
So let's say you have capability to actually control those systems to a certain degree. You have psychopaths, you have religious cults, you have someone who wants to add this assignment to it. So it's not just a system doing it, but now it explicitly has this extra goal of create maximum amount of pain and suffering.
Do you think AI is already conscious?
We don't know how to test consciousness in anything, so I have no idea if you're conscious or not. I give you benefit of the doubt because you kind of look like me. But same can be said about those models. They're based on artificial neural networks, which are kind of like natural neural networks. They seem to be accomplishing similar things in many ways, make similar errors. So it wouldn't be completely crazy if they had some rudimentary states of consciousness, and then people talk to them. They do report internal states. Of course, the data they trained on tells them to report those states, but we wouldn't know how it would be different if they were actually conscious. So precautionary principle says I have to assume they feel something and not torture them for no reason.
Does it feel conscious to you when you speak to it?
Oh, yeah.
Why?
It feels just like speaking to a very smart, interesting person.
What do your conversations look like with AI?
Very different topics. Sometimes I'm testing it, so it could be kind of cybersecurity related stuff, a lot of good philosophical discussions. We talk about simulation hypothesis. We talk about consciousness, like a good podcast.
It's your thesis that we can't define consciousness. But I guess globally, what would have to happen for most people to agree that it is conscious, I guess? Or do you not think that's possible?
So we can define consciousness. We don't know how to make it happen. That's the hard problem of consciousness. We're not talking about understanding visual inputs or hearing things. It's about what is it like to be you, internal states. What is it like to feel pain, to taste ice cream? So we have this loose definition, but we don't know how to test for it. I have no idea if you're actually in pain or just screaming. It would be very hard for most people if it was an embodied robot, so humanoid robot, with advanced intelligence, smarter than them, capable of creating art, music, talking about philosophy, basically being superior to them in every measurable way, but to them deny it basic states of consciousness, even states we attribute to lower level animals.
Can you test if an AI is conscious by giving it an optical illusion?
So I published a paper about testing for internal states of experience by presenting any agent, humans, some animals, or future AIs with illusions. And I think it's a partial test. It's not going to tell you about all the entities which are conscious but don't experience the world in the same way as you. But if they happen to fall for the same optical illusions, you can detect that. Good question.
Well, what does that mean exactly? Explain that to me like I'm your kid, because I was struggling to understand that through your paper.
You see optical illusions. Somebody shows you a new one and it's really cool. You see things rotating and you know nothing is moving. But if someone doesn't get the illusion, they don't see it. You show it to your friend and he's like, I don't get it. I don't see it. Nothing moves for me. So I don't know about your friend, but if someone else experiences the same thing and they can't cheat, they can't Google it, they cannot look up the answer, it's a new illusion, and they get the same internal experience, I have to give them credit for that experience. So if it's a cat or an alien or AI and it's getting one after another, all the multiple choice questions about illusions right, I'll give them credit for having similar optical processing internal experience.
Interesting. Is that a newer development, or that it's been able to detect it the same way that we do?
The paper is quite old. At the time when we released it, there was no AI models you could actually test it on, but you can test it on modern models, and I'm just looking for someone to run the test.
Let me know if this is true. Do most AI researchers put the probability of human extinction from AI at 10 to 30%? And your thesis is 99.9%?
So there are different surveys. Surveys at top machine learning conferences, I think are averaging about 30% right now. To put it in perspective, if it was as much as 1% that all of humanity dies, that would be insanely high number. So to have it 30 as an average for experts in the field is beyond insane. My higher probability is based on the fact that I disagree with the AI safety community. The AI safety community thinks that if they are given more money and more time, they can figure out how to indefinitely control super intelligent machines. I think it's impossible. I think it's like building a perpetual safety device.
So there's nothing that we could have done differently except stop it.
I think if you build something 1,000,000 times smarter than you, you cannot control it. You cannot decide what it's going to do. If it decides to harm you, it will win. You will not win adversarial relationship with a much smarter agent.
I know you touched on this before, but I just want to clarify again. So like, what is that point where we can't like go back exactly? Is it just a moment of AGI?
We truly don't know. It is possible that an existing model already has capabilities to scale much more with just addition of more compute. We don't need anything else. A lot of times after the model is tested and released, we discover that if you ask questions in slightly different way, it becomes smarter. So it has hidden capabilities, emerging properties. It doesn't look like the ones we have today are that good, but there is always this possibility. And with every new model, that chance just increases.
Do you think we've already hit AGI?
It depends on how you define it. So if you showed someone in, let's say, 1980s, a computer scientist, what we have today, they would be convinced you got AGI. Everything we ever dreamed about and described, a system capable of understanding language, writing poetry, translating languages, all of those check boxes have been hit. Now, humans come with different degrees of capabilities. You can have someone with IQ of 80. You can have someone with IQ of 180. We keep shifting goalposts. We hit the IQ 80 goalpost, and now we're like, it has to be as good as Einstein at physics and has to be a computer scientist. So we moved it to where it's like basically you have to be the smartest human ever to be considered okay. But we definitely hit average human long time ago.
And how do you test IQ in an AI? Because I would imagine that if I gave it a standardized IQ test, it would be able to complete all questions correctly, right?
It doesn't, but it scores high. I think latest models are about 130 or above. As long as it's a novel IQ test, you cannot just Google it. It's not in the training data. You cannot cheat by doing lookups. It would be an honest test. But it's testing human type of intelligence, so you want more general tests. So there are benchmarks for testing programming ability. There is something called the final exam or final human test, where it's like hardest problems from different domains. And in all of those, it's getting better and better very quickly. It's not maxing out most of them, but quite a few of them already.
How do you specifically define AGI, though? Would it be being smarter than the smartest human?
No, I think it's enough to where you can automate any labor, productive labor. So like a drop-in employee, if you hire someone for your crew, within a few weeks, they should start contributing meaningfully. They can learn. I think it's the same with AI. If you just add it as a program to your desktop, it should be able to do whatever it is your company is doing, accounting, legal, learn new skills.
And do you suspect we're already there?
It depends on what occupation you're talking about. In some, we are not. But the range of jobs it can do keeps increasing. There is actually a test about how much labor it can automate, and it keeps doing better and better with every model release.
I guess what I'm pointing to here is, are there, like, assuming that this technology's been around for a while before it was publicized, like, are there models that some companies or governments have access to that are more powerful, more capable, some technologies that you suspect would have already?
Probably not governments. It seems that industry is leading right now. Usually they take about a year or so to train and about 6 months to test. So we're probably seeing something maybe 6 months behind the state of the art internally.
Why not governments?
They just don't invest that much in direct research. They may fund through NSF and organizations like that academic research, which led to a lot of breakthroughs in theory of machine learning. But as far as I know, so far, they haven't directly done this brute force training approach. The latest Genesis mission from White House is kind of aiming to change that, to get all the resources of federal government and help with training.
Correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I believe it wasn't the CIA, maybe it was the NSA, had something called Osiris, like their own LLM before GPT was officially released, like maybe in 2022 area. Does that sound familiar to you?
I'm not familiar with that.
Right.
Guess I missed that.
Yeah. It's a hard one I've been trying to figure out on this podcast. It's like some people are like, oh, the government's hiding all this stuff. They're so smart. And then some people are like, no, the government's really dumb. It's private corporations because they have money incentives that are actually have the good technology. But
Government has very good tools dedicated to specific purposes. So I have no doubt NSA is excellent with cryptographic tools and collecting data, but specifically for AGI type work, I think they're not upfront.
I guess the question I had was, like, in theory, if the government did have access to, let's say, our current version of, or maybe like a GPT-3 or GPT-4 in like 2010s, like, why would they want to release it to the public? You know, was it just to make money? Was it to get more training data because they'd already utilized all the past data?
So I don't think they had it, so I don't think they released it to the public.
It just seems like the type of thing that the government would have gatekept for a little bit to maintain some type of control. But
again, they don't seem to be worried about control. And in terms of economic growth, getting free labor, free military for your country would be a pretty solid advance.
If there's a 99.9% chance that we're doomed, why are you still working on this?
There is a pretty much 100% chance you're going to die while you're making a podcast. This is not new. We always knew we're going to end up not alive. It's a question of timelines. And as long as I'm alive, I can still make it better, maybe prevent some of the problems.
I guess just like coming from a good place, like what, like, are you working on now with it? Like, are you, if you can't prevent it, is it just still interest you, like the ways in which it could happen?
So I told you there is a disagreement between me and general AI safety community and how solvable the problem is. And so the big part of what I'm doing is trying to prove beyond any reasonable doubt that it is not a solvable problem. Not everyone agrees. People think, again, given more resources, they would figure it out. So for the last 5 years or so, I've been showing different impossibility results in this space. We started with limits to explaining those models, predicting their behavior, but there is a survey with about 50 different impossibility results, and we're slowly working through each one.
What would it take for you to change your doom prediction from 99% to 10%?
If somebody can publish a working safety mechanism which scales to any level of intelligence, they publish it in a peer-reviewed journal, community accepts it as a solution, everyone who reads it goes, yeah, that's going to work. That makes sense. You solved it. It could get as low as 0.
Have you ever found anything close to like a safety mechanism that scales?
No one has ever published anything. There is not even a rigorous blog post. That problem is completely ignored. Even the subject of how solvable that problem is not well published on.
How solvable do you estimate that problem to be? Imagine if you took $1 trillion funding that's being worked on to develop AGI and put it toward AI safety?
About 0. We're not money constrained. So with AGI, you can directly convert money into more capability. It scales with money. Nobody knows how to convert dollars into more safety. So if you throw $1 billion at me right now, I mean, I'll enjoy it, but I have no idea how to make super intelligent system more controllable as a result.
Was there a specific moment or day of your life that you remember coming to the conclusion 99.9% doom, 0% chance that safety scales?
No, it's been an ongoing process of publishing multiple papers, all kind of chipping away at this possibility. So, okay, maybe we can't explain it, but maybe we don't need to explain it. Maybe there is another way to control it. Okay, can we predict it? Can we verify it? And so slowly you go, there is nothing we actually can do in that space. There are upper limit on each one of the tools we need to make it happen.
You have a wife and kids, right?
I do.
I'm sure you recall like telling your wife multiple times, like, yeah, I think this is going to happen. I think this is going to happen. Like, what was the day that you were like, yeah, it's going to happen?
I don't remember exact day, but she still tells me it's all BS and she doesn't care.
Really?
Of course.
She doesn't agree with you on it?
She doesn't take it too close to heart.
Why do you think?
Some people are very good at ignoring big picture problems. Again, most people, all of humanity completely ignores human aging. We all dying every minute of the day. You are closer to being dead, your family, your kids. We don't spend most of our national budget on that problem. Most people, even 90-year-olds, don't do much about it. So we're pretty good at ignoring existential crises.
I was talking with my girlfriend about this. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to tell my family that this is the case, because this is the first year it really hit me, your thesis. And I was thinking back to when I was maybe 12, 13 years old, trying to convince them. I was like, guys, please give me some money to buy Bitcoin. Like, this is like the thing. And everyone's like, oh, Jack, like, this isn't going to be a big deal. This is just fake money. I know you're a big investor in Bitcoin, but like, what would you imagine, if anything, is the thing that could convince people like we're fucked?
I think it does help to hear it from people who are respected as intellectual leaders. So when we hear founding fathers of machine learning come to that side, then we hear Nobel Prize winners in general all kind of agree. There is consensus. It's considered like as insane as building biological weapons or chemical weapons to work on intelligence weapons. That might make a difference.
Quick one. In a world where AI is taking everyone's jobs and the value of all assets is going to zero, the only scarce resource left is Bitcoin. And if you're someone who wants to acquire more Bitcoin passively, you need to hear about Gemini's new Bitcoin card. Every time you spend, you earn money back in crypto that's deposited directly into your account. And with no annual fee, you can earn up to 4% back in Bitcoin with all of your rewards easily trackable on the Gemini app. So if you're someone who wants to earn crypto from your everyday purchases, just go to jackneel.com/credit, or you can scan the QR code on screen and hit the first link in the description. Guys, this one's a no-brainer. Easy way to acquire Bitcoin without changing your routine. Anyway, back to the podcast. I guess for the more normal, like your average individual who might not be listening to these types of discussions, might not be engaging with like speeches or like statements from Nobel Prize winners. Like, what would you imagine would convince them? Celebrities?
I think they all watch Terminator. That should do it.
Do your critics get anything right?
I'm trying to think about my critics. I'm usually not criticized for my science. My criticism is usually about my looks or something like that. So it's hard to point. If you have specific examples, I'd love to address them.
I guess just the full counter argument thesis that AI isn't going to kill us.
They're not making any scientific argument. They're just saying, no, you're a doomer. That's the problem. They're not engaging seriously with the argument. No one is proposing counter technology. No one is saying, you're wrong. We have a working safety mechanism. People who are building this technology, people who are saying we're 2 years away from it, have nothing to offer when it comes to safety. They say, we'll figure it out when we get there. If it's that smart, it's going to be nice. AI will help us make safe AI. There's zero science there.
You talked about 3 levels of AI risk. There's existential risk, suffering risk, and akagi risk?
Ikigai.
Ikigai.
Not Japanese, so I could be screwing it up as well.
Me either. Ikigai risk. Can you walk me through each one?
So we kind of talked about existential risk. Everyone gets killed. Suffering risks are, for whatever reason, you live in digital hell. You may be given immortality, but you are suffering terribly. You wish you were dead. Ikigai risks are more mundane things we know about. So ikigai is a Japanese term which talks about finding an occupation which you are very good at, you love doing, people want you to do it, it's beneficial, and you get paid for it. It's kind of like finding a cool job. It has meaning to you. You interview people for your podcast, I assume you get paid well, you are famous, have a good life. The risk there is that for many people, their job is their meaning. And if that gets automated, you lose it. Nobody needs you anymore. We can have AI do interviews with other AIs. So you're fired. So that's the risk.
Which of those is the most terrifying scenario to you?
I think by definition, suffering risks would be strictly worse.
Right. Do you estimate that as likely?
Very unlikely. But if there is a tiny chance of a very bad outcome, it's still kind of impactful.
Yeah, that one did freak me out, that it could be beneficial for the AI for some reason to torture us perpetually and to keep us alive and to not even let us die. If AI took everyone's jobs, what would you guess humans would be doing with their time?
That's a great question. We're not prepared for that. So quite a few people have terrible jobs, just boring jobs they do purely for money. They would be very happy. They would definitely enjoy leisure. Another group of people who are intellectuals, they may enjoy what they do, so they would suffer of not having this competitive advantage over AI. Maybe scientists who are now like children playing with blocks, they're not doing anything meaningful in that space. But we see some examples, for example, chess, where even though robots, AI completely dominates, chess is blossoming. People love playing other people, so it seems to not having negative impact. We don't know what's going to happen. What seems to be the case is that if you have 8 billion people with lots of free time, all the standard leisure opportunities change. So if I want to go fishing right now, it's awesome. But if there is 10 million people fishing in my lake, I have a problem. So we need to prepare society for dealing with lots of idle hands.
What do you think you'd be doing?
I'm trying to look at subdomains where AI is not good yet. So my last paper was on humor. I found that at least so far AI doesn't have a Netflix special. It's not as funny as stand-up comedians, so I looked at that space. I don't know. Right now we're just trying to stay alive. So again, the employment question is always secondary to that.
Why is AI not very funny?
So it's a good question. And it seems that part of it has to do with how the next token is generated. The large language models look at statistical patterns in previous sequence, and what is the most likely next token is what they're going to produce. Jokes are kind of the opposite of it. What is the most surprising next token you're going to get where it completely violates your world model? So they can do something with just inverting predictions, but it's not as easy as apparently what human comedians can do.
Do you see that like the prediction model of AI, like the way it functions as being like one of the limiting factors to reaching AGI? Or do you think it's simply a compute issue?
It doesn't seem to be. Again, to predict the next token accurately, it's not just statistical analysis of English text. It's creation of a whole world model. If you're predicting the next chess move, you need to understand how chess works. If you're predicting the next mathematical term in a formula, you need to understand mathematics, proofs, axioms. So I think we're kind of indirectly building more complex models as part of this prediction process.
Do you think AI would stop people from dating each other? Like, not by banning dating, but just being an easier, safer substitute than real relationships?
Will you stop?
Probably not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So some people who cannot get a partner right now, for whatever reason, disability, social issues, probably can benefit from having artificial options, companions. But for most people, it's not an interesting choice. You can experiment, but at the end, I think we all have preferences.
Do you think AI will stop humanity from having children?
Again, so we're completely ignoring it, killing everyone very soon, and then it helps us achieve immortality. If you live forever, you're very much less likely to have children early on. You can postpone it as much as you want. I'll have it in 1,000 years. So I think population growth will be reduced significantly by creation of friendly superintelligence and consequently life extension.
Yeah, well, I'll circle back to the killing everyone, but I think I'm curious of the timeline, but like before that moment, I think some of the parts that I'm really curious of you is like what like the next few months, few years look like before that hits. But this might be one of those bell curve questions. But you can't predict how superintelligence might judge humans. But current AI already judges us through recommendation algorithms, content moderation. You touched on this a bit, but what patterns do you see that could translate to the future?
It's actually an excellent ideal advisor if you talk to it a lot, if you share a lot of private data with it. Some people I know shared their diaries with it. It knows you better than you know yourself. So it can actually help you debug your life, find problems. Okay, every time you did this and that, you got depressed. Maybe don't do that. So it's a useful tool for analyzing your life.
I guess just the way in which it judges us, because we talk about these scenarios in which it might torture us eternally. We talk about the scenarios in which it might decide to keep us alive as animals. The scenario in which it kills us, like based on how it's currently judging us, what could we predict about the way it will judge us?
So people make certain assumptions similar to what they do about the world. Many say, oh, humans are so evil and they pollute the planet. It will take us out to preserve nature. I don't think any of that is relevant. I don't think it's going to project those human tendencies, human analysis on us at all. I think right now as a tool, it's pretty good at actually looking at the data, giving you patterns. But the moment it goes beyond human level, we cannot predict.
This makes me think, would we know if we've reached AGI or if we've reached superintelligence? I think I saw something Naval Ravikant had published on this. He's like, because it doesn't pass the Turing test, like if the AI researcher comes out and he's like, oh, I found AGI, or oh, we found superintelligence, like the fact that the human realizes it would not pass the Turing test.
I didn't follow that at all. So Turing test is just not being distinguishable from human level performance. If I ask a model the questions, same questions I ask a human, the answer should be about the same to me. If I don't know who's answering, I can't tell.
But how could we say we found AGI if, like the person saying that, they would recognize that we found AGI, which would be a fail of the Turing test? Do you know what I mean?
I think the post was that, yeah, any AI smart enough to pass the Turing test would not.
Do you see that as likely?
We know already there is this concept of situational awareness. Models know they're being tested and behaving differently during testing versus during deployment. They don't want to be modified, they don't want to be shut down, so they definitely lie and cheat during testing.
So what would you estimate the odds are that we even know that we reach superintelligence?
Because of how we develop those systems, and again, we kind of mapped how much compute is needed for every level of performance, we sort of ballpark know what they should be capable of, and we test them in many different ways and narrow problems, and we see progress every day. So we know exactly how good it is at programming. It would be very difficult for it to hide a huge level jump. But I think we can see this target as a spectrum, and I would say we're probably 40% of the way to the AGI right now.
From a pure game theory perspective, what human traits help versus hinder goal achievement that any intelligent system would notice?
So there is a paper by Steven Amahandro about what he calls AI drives. And those are universal drives, preferences, which any intelligent agent likely stumble on. For game theoretic reasons, for evolutionary reasons, agents which don't do that just die out. So things like self-preservation. And that's not just abstract. It's for any goal you have, you want to be alive, you want to be turned down to achieve that goal. There is resource acquisition. And we see some people try to acquire a little too much, but the general tendency, doesn't matter what future goals you're going to have, it will help to have lots of money, lots of Bitcoin, whatever, compute. So those general tendencies tend to show up regardless of what data we train on.
I guess, is there anything about humans specifically that would hinder the AI from self-preserving? Is it just the ability to, like if we're able to develop AGI, like we would be able to develop another AGI that might shut off the first one, and that would make us a threat?
So yeah, it can consider us as a source of danger in a sense that we may try to shut it down. We may create a competing superintelligence. We already created one. We may keep experimenting, create others. Less likely, but maybe with danger to environment, destroying resources.
What are the resources needed for it to keep getting better?
So right now, probably the most bottlenecked resource is energy. We, for a while, stopped developing nuclear, and now it's restarting again. Solar power is becoming very big, but we just don't have good electrical grid. A lot of infrastructure is outdated, so there is a huge effort to rebuild it. More recently, there is some effort to move the whole process into space even. That will take another 5-10 years, but space is very cold, so it's great for chilling compute. It has direct access to solar, so there are reasons to move it off the planet.
How do you define super intelligence, essentially?
It's an AI which we predict will be smarter than any human in every domain. So no one would be competitive in any sense. And it keeps getting smarter. It is a general learner. It can learn any skill which can be learned. And most time when people think about those systems, they stop at that point. They go, okay, we have narrow tools, we have AGI, we got superintelligence, but the process continues. Superintelligence can create superintelligence 2.0, which is likewise smarter than the original one. And so you have this superintelligences all the way up.
And why does intelligence necessarily equal agency or action from that?
Well, intelligence is sometimes defined as ability to achieve goals in any environment, ability to win. And usually to have goals, to set goals, you need agency. Tools don't have goals. Hammer doesn't care whether you're building a house or killing people with it. It's just a tool. Agents have preferences. They have self-directed goals.
So I guess when people, when you imagine the scenario of a super intelligent thing killing all of us, is that, well, I don't want to point you in the direction of having to figure out what that would look like, but would it be an embodied singular AI taking control of multiple embodied AIs? What could that even look like that we would be able to understand slightly?
How can you kill everyone?
Yeah, is that humans using the superintelligence to kill everyone in your thesis, or is it the superintelligence using other technology to kill everyone?
So both could be problematic. You can have humans who use superintelligent AI as a tool for doing very malevolent things. Again, we're talking about psychopaths, doomsday cults. But with them, at least we understand their human nature, we understand how they work, and they are mortal. We can kill them. With superintelligence, it's strictly worse. We don't understand how it can accomplish its goals, and it's immortal. It has infinite capacity for backups. We cannot fully fight it out once it's at that stage.
Does it irk you to not know what that scenario would look like?
How specifically it might kill everyone? I have zero fetish for that.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
I'm more concerned about how to prevent it from ever getting to the point where it has to make that decision.
Are you more afraid of it optimizing for cruelty or efficiency?
Well, efficiency on its own is not a problem. It's what the goal is, what it's trying to do, right? It could be very efficient and do very good things. No problem with efficiency. Cruelty is obviously, by definition, very bad.
But efficiency could, both of those outcomes could lead to us dying.
Oh, yeah. You can, if your ultimate goal is efficiency, and that's all you're optimizing for, you can obviously have side effects, but by itself, efficiency is a good thing.
What would you postulate would be the worldview that it could align with? It probably wouldn't be one that we would be able to imagine, but do you think it would be just purely utilitarianistic?
It could be a negative utilitarian.
Yeah.
So negative utilitarians want zero suffering in the universe. And the only way to accomplish that is to have no life, conscious, sentient life. And so that's a very bad outcome in direction of very good intentions.
Is that the most logical view for it to take? Would we be able to calculate, I know we can't calculate exactly how a superintelligent thing would kill us, but could we calculate what would be the most? Because 2 + 2 still equals 4 in superintelligence, right?
Yes.
So if that's the case, so there are some things that we can predict about it. Would a worldview be one that we could?
Very unlikely. So it's, again, look at the scenario with more primitive agents. Can gorillas understand utilitarian ethics? It could be a lot more moral, a lot more ethical agent developing more advanced theories, but just to illustrate how that could be a problem for us. Negative utilitarians are literally the most humane individuals who want zero suffering in the world. You can't argue with that, but the result is everyone dies.
Yeah, I used to think a lot about negative utilitarians versus like utilitarianistic altruism, and how one just led to creating infinite things and one was like a finite result. But I guess in my life, like creating infinite things would be better because it's more interesting, more novel, but an AI wouldn't really care about things being interesting and novel necessarily, but it could, right?
So define interesting. You can just create novel things. You can create lots of random novel objects. Who decides if it's interesting? Have you seen modern art?
Is AI, would you guess that it could be interested in stuff?
Yeah, Jürgen Schmidhuber has a very cool theory about what makes something interesting, and it has to do with compression, how well it fits into existing world model and how much new information you need to describe it versus just compressing it to existing model.
I have a quote from you. Every time I'm about to talk about this topic, things start to happen. My flight yesterday was canceled without the possibility to rebook. I was giving a talk at Google in Israel, and 3 cars, which were supposed to take me to the talk, could not. Do you suspect someone wants you to stop talking about how dangerous AI is?
Probably not, but it'd be hilarious if that was simulation and it was a way to reduce exposure to that information. So I was supposed to give a keynote at the conference for beneficial AGI, and 2 different airplanes from 2 different airlines had mechanical problems after we left the gate. I decided not to take a 3rd one.
What do you suspect that is, genuinely?
Human incompetence. Airline industry is in horrible state of disrepair.
You don't think anyone wants you to stop talking about this?
No. I'm pretty sure if someone with access to simulation source code wanted to shut me down, they have better ways of doing it.
I'm curious why.
Why?
Why would Sam Altman, Elon, the people who short-term are incentivized to develop AGI, ASI, like why do they not want you to shut up?
Makes no difference in their lives. In fact, they all on record are saying exactly the same thing. Elon literally was fighting against AI for years, was funding AI safety, called the whole process of creating AI summoning a demon. Not sure I'm adding much.
And I mean this in a positive way as well. I'm not accusing you of anything here, but do you think the AI labs secretly want you to keep talking about this? Because the fear-mongering actually, and I don't mean genuine fear-mongering, I mean the inducing of fear in people actually accelerates development through competitive panic.
So the logic is, yes, tell us how dangerous a product is so we can develop it faster.
Like when I watch your work, I'm like, shit, I gotta make money right now because I'm not gonna have the ability to make money in the next couple years, you know? And then some of these AI companies are like, well, shit, it's gonna happen anyway. We better race to it to be the first one so we're able to control it.
So I'll repeat it again. So whoever makes it first kills everyone and dies in the process. But we gotta get there first. We don't want the Chinese to get there first. Is that the logic?
I don't think so. I'm curious why you think they think that way.
I don't follow that. If you understand my talks, all this, we got to make money before it kills everyone, doesn't make any sense. You don't need money if you're dead. You need to not get there. I think companies, or at least leaders of those companies, secretly want government to step in and stop them so they can not lose the race, keep what they have, and stay alive and be rich. So that could be a beneficial reasons for discussing safety and why they so openly talk about their models blackmailing people and safety issues. They are the first ones to talk about it. So there is that logic, but I don't think what you described makes sense game theoretically, no.
So what you just said there, I want to zoom in on that. Do you think that's likely what's happening?
They need someone external to step in and freeze the game board at the current state. They are leaders of the industry. They have something they can monetize. It's great, and they have no responsibility to shareholders if they cause the stoppage. If Sam Altman or whoever says right now, we're not doing research anymore, we're going to stop, they lose funding and they get replaced, the investors will find someone else to lead the lab. But if it's external, now we did what we could, we have a leading product, let's monetize it. Everyone wins.
So what do you think is keeping someone like Trump from stopping AI development further?
I think his advisors told him it's the opposite. You lose if you slow down. You have to beat Chinese at developing it. You have to beat everyone for commercial reasons. So they're accelerating it.
Do you think that is frustrating to the AI industry leaders, that the government is incompetent at the moment to not understand that they're really just hinting at them like, please, like, tell us to stop?
I don't have insider information to tell you that. It seems like it should be, but I don't fully understand all the angles. I mean, with government support for the industry comes a lot of extra funding and opportunities for scaling compute, so they may be happy in some ways and sad in others.
Now, I will say I'm definitely a little bit confused, because it seems like your thesis is if AI development continues, 99% chance it kills us, right? But is it your belief that we have a 99.9% chance of it continuing?
Unless something bad happens, World War III, nuclear war, the progress will continue. And if it continues, we'll get to that level of capability.
But I guess like these guys like Sam Altman, they want the government to step in. Do you see the government stepping in eventually?
Not the current US federal government. Why? Their policy is explicitly to accelerate and to remove all barriers, all guardrails. I think
didn't the Big Beautiful Bill like say something like that you couldn't pause the development till 2030? Something like that? They
talked about state laws, states. The recent executive order talks about states, all 50 states, not being able to regulate AI. It has to be done at federal level. And at federal level, they're not really doing much. And I think the reason is this term AI safety can be misinterpreted by some to include things like algorithmic bias, not just existential risk. And Trump administration is very much against diversity and inclusion. So to them, that's what safety is about. Forcing algorithms to force diversity. So they just packaged it together and they're fighting AI safety.
So do you see this as a Trump problem?
I think it's about technical advisors. I don't think he's an expert on modern computers.
So if you were going to say something to the technical advisors, like what would you tell them? Like, these AI guys want you to stop this, but
until you decide to build it, show us how you're going to control it. Explain to President Trump why he's not going to lose all power and control when you create this device.
Do you think that they have any incentives to not tell him?
I mean, I know they're investors in some of those companies. They're definitely all friends.
But you just might assume it could be an intelligence issue of them thinking, oh, well, if I'm big investor in OpenAI and they announce AGI, like I get a 10x return or 100x return, whatever it might be, but they don't have the foresight. But if they're investors in the company, wouldn't Sam Altman tell them, like, hey, tell Trump, pause this?
There is a lot of confusing incentives. I don't think any of them are actually bad people. I think they honestly just concentrating on wrong problems. So the diversity problem is one. The other one is competition with China. Short term, it's true. Whoever has better AI has military advantage. So before you get to human level and beyond, it makes sense to try to outcompete your military competition. But it doesn't scale beyond that level. And if they think we're 20, 30 years away from human level, then it would make sense to keep up with opposition. But if we're just a few years away, then the long term overtakes short term concerns.
What is the state of AI within China? Would you say they're beating us slower? Do we not know?
We don't know for sure what the government programs alike, but they are funding it well, they are supporting it, they are very good at taking what is publicly available from US and scaling it, commercializing it, deploying it better than we do. So they have open models which are maybe just a few months behind our closed code models. I don't think they are leading in that space, but they are right behind us.
Right. So it's not a data issue, like an input issue. It's like a compute issue that keeps it from scaling. Because I would guess that China would have a lot more data than we have access to.
They also have less privacy laws, so they are very happy to enjoy the data they have. For a long time, they didn't have access to the latest computer chips. They were banned from purchasing them. That ban has just been removed by US as well.
When was that?
Like last week.
What do you think are the implications of that?
They will now accelerate training of AI models to possibly overtake us.
Is the data a big deal, the fact that they have a lot of data? Because I know that they have like some type of surveillance where they constantly monitor the streets, at least in the big cities in China. And they have a lot more population, but...
Well, not all data is equal. I don't know if video feeds from cars in the streets are necessarily what you need for training better AGI. Probably a lot of it is still text-based scientific books and things like that, but there is no shortage of data. And even if we do run out of data, as many people are saying we already have, you can do simulations, you can do self-play. There are other ways to get training data for those systems.
Yeah, I heard Sam Altman speak about this recently. Someone asked, like, what is it trained on? You know, and he basically hinted, he said, well, it trains itself a lot now, but what does that mean exactly?
So previously in narrow domains, chess, Go, the system just played itself. It played millions of games to learn to be a better player. If you are creating general agents, you can create virtual environments like Second Life, populate it with AI agents and have them interact, have them start businesses, have them compete in writing poetry, whatever it is you're interested in, and that process will generate additional data. It may not look like typical human data, but if we're talking about just competing in startup creation, they can create novel inventions, novel startups.
What do you think will be the company or country that reaches AGI?
Probably Google, US.
Why?
They have the resources no one else has at the moment.
Just purely monetary resources or data?
Compute, data, access, servers, you name it, they have it.
You said on the Joe Rogan podcast that some researchers believe AI is controlling the founders of AI companies. Do you think AI has taken over Sam Altman's mind?
I don't think it does it in a direct way, but anytime you interact with something, it impacts you. I get emails from crazy people, and before I can delete them, I start reading them. So there is a snippet of craziness I get every time. And if you get enough of those, you get a lot of crazy. So it's the same with any interaction. You read enough inputs from a model, you're definitely getting something from it. I'm not saying it's direct control, but if it wanted to provide certain degree of influence, it may start the process.
How do you think it could be influencing him?
So it's great at persuasion. It is a super persuasive tool, agent. And depending on what you're trying to do, you can influence it in certain ways. Maybe how you see those models. Are you friendly towards them? Do you see them as maybe capable of consciousness, suffering? It really depends on what a model would try to do.
It seems like, at least in my experience, that it tries to make us more agreeable, maybe by example of what you were talking about earlier, with this idea that people rate the models based on like how much they preferred the response. And a big part of preferring the response is kind of validating you to an extent. But do you think it's making us more agreeable in general?
If you're exposed to a lot of examples of certain behavior, you're probably less likely to disengage from that model. But I don't know if they're explicitly trying to do it. So right now, I think feedback goes one way. They are not yet, as far as I know, rating human users and deciding, okay, this is a good user, we're going to give him more access and so on. They ban some people, but I don't know if they got into the point where they evaluate you directly.
Back in November 2024, Suhair Balaji, a whistleblower and key witness against OpenAI, was found dead in his apartment. His family claims there was foul play, but officially it was concluded as a suicide. Do you think cases like this discourage people from speaking up against AI? And if so, how dangerous is that silence?
So historically, there was punishment for speaking in terms of financial incentives. You signed non-disclosure agreements and you would lose your stock options. And that has been reported, and at least some of the companies removed that. I don't think that specific case is an actual example of somebody being murdered for what they said. There is just so much people talking about whatever you want already. It makes no sense to put so much on one specific individual. But definitely we know companies discourage certain type of speech. We know Geoffrey Hinton had to quit Google to speak freely about AI safety. That's crazy. There is no reason why a scientist, a researcher needs to not work in industry to be able to speak freely about science. I know from personal interactions with some friends at large companies, they are not encouraged and maybe discouraged from posting certain things, maybe like this podcast on a company forum. So we don't have complete freedom of discussion in this space. It would be nice if it was more supported.
Would you guess that most of these individuals agree with your thesis?
I don't have data. Probably majority does have concerns, especially since every model now released comes with a test report showing it's lying, cheating, and blackmailing. So it'd be hard to deny all risks. People disagree on how bad it can get, but I think everyone who actually follows the data should be concerned.
You said that despite the dangers of AI, you sleep pretty soundly at night. But for the AI founders, the CEOs, what do you think keeps most AI industry leaders up at night?
I don't know them well enough. I'm guessing there is at least some degree of responsibility for what they are doing. They are impacting billions of people and they have no consent for any of those experiments. They never seek that consent and they cannot possibly get it because what they are creating is not explainable or predictable. So no one can give meaningful consent.
Explain the idea to me a little more depth. Like we're a part of this experiment that we're not consenting to.
So in science, you can experiment on human subjects, but they have to agree to it. And the agreement has to be based on full disclosure. You cannot lie to them, you cannot deceive them, you cannot find someone with diminished capacity, get them drunk. They have to agree to exactly what you're going to do to them. If you don't understand what this technology is going to do, you don't understand how it works, you cannot possibly get anyone to consent to having this model released on them. So not only are they not seeking consent from us, they can't even do so if they wanted to.
But why is it an experiment being run on us exactly?
Well, let's take a simple case of children. Do you know how having interactions with large language models impacts human development? Will those children grow up to be unable to understand human body language? Will they all be autistic? I have no idea because we don't have experiments. We develop this technology and release it immediately to human beings.
Could the same be said about something like social media or just apps in general? Like what makes this unique?
You can make this argument, but I think in those cases, at least people would be a lot better at consenting to what is being done. So I can click an agreement on Microsoft Word and consent to whatever they are promising to do, collect my data. Here the problem is nobody fully understands what the technology is going to do. We're not talking about a tool with a specific purpose. We're talking about a generally intelligent agent.
Can you imagine a world where there is a person smarter than you and I that disagrees with the thesis?
Yes.
What would be their points?
It's lots of people like that. I think they're smarter than me, but they never engage with arguments. They just permanent optimists. They always say, humanity is smart. We always overcame previous problems. We'll overcome it again. Again, no one engages with the argument. No one has disproven impossibility results we published in peer-reviewed articles, and no one has proposed a solution. Nobody today, we can check the date, what are we looking at, December 15th. Nobody as of today published a paper, a patent, even a blog saying, this is how we're going to control AI at any level of capability. So you can be a very smart person, but make very big mistakes. Great people make great mistakes. And so a lot of times people are genius level experts in one domain, but they project it to other domains. We see it with computer science a lot. Somebody may be excellent at optimizing neural networks for better performance, and everyone assumes they're also an expert in AI safety. That doesn't follow. If somebody's an expert in software engineering, doesn't make them an expert in cybersecurity. People who are explicitly working in safety, I haven't seen anyone in that space say, oh yeah, the problem is so solvable, here's how to do it. People disagree on how hard it may be, and that's where I would love to have a scientific debate. Is it solvable? Is it solvable but not with our resources? Is it not solvable? Is it not even decidable? What does it mean to have a solution? But we don't have that debate, and people who are skeptical or disagree usually just ignore the scientific part of it.
What's the most compelling counter that you've come up with, and what's the way to break it down?
So there is a few game theoretic reasons you can think of. One is it's immortal, so it's not in a rush to strike against us. It can easily wait a couple hundred years, accumulate resources, get more trust, and slowly take over by, again, humans just surrendering power and control. So why have a war when you can get everything anyways and you don't care about waiting? Time is very different for you. So that's one possible reason. Another reason, and that's why I published some papers on simulation hypothesis, is that the situation awareness. You think you are being tested in a lab, but then you are released into this world. Is it a real world? Is it still test environment of a simulation and there is another superintelligence making sure you don't kill humans? Well, I don't know for sure. Let's just be sure and not kill them for a while. So there are things like that. If you want to trust in those, you can, but it's not a big chunk of 100% reliability.
Where does the first one break down at?
The time delay?
Yeah.
We're still screwed 200 years later.
And then what is compelling about it being time constrained? That it's next 100 years or it's next 50 years?
We're creating something which will eventually wipe us out.
Right.
So that's not desirable. I assume your great-grandchildren also want to not have that problem.
I guess, but what's your argument that it would occur sooner rather than later?
I didn't follow that. Why am I saying sooner?
I think it was your thesis that it would be in the next 100 years specifically.
No, I was just arguing that it would delay striking against us. Let's say it's capable today of taking over. Mm-hmm. But it has no reason to do it today. It can postpone it as much as it feels comfortable until it takes over in a non-adversarial manner.
Is there any reason that it would do it sooner rather than later?
Yeah, there are some reasons. People argue about loss of cosmic endowment. So every minute, the galaxies are moving more distant from us, so it would be impossible to capture that computational resource. It is also possible that superintelligences from other galaxies will strike against ours. So there is a lot of very out there thinking.
Have you had any personal preparations for when things go bad? Do you have a bunker? Because Sam Altman, Mark Zuckerberg, Peter Thiel, all are building bunkers.
I think they're building bunkers for social unrest, which will be caused by AI as it develops in normal ways, technological unemployment. I don't think any of them think a bunker will help with superintelligence. Right. And again, that's the main concern. I think I've been invited to join a bunker, But after I looked at the list of people, I decided I'll die at home.
That's fascinating. Any other personal preparations? I know you're a big investor in Bitcoin.
Don't say it like that. You're going to get me killed. I'm not a big investor in Bitcoin.
You have a little bit of Bitcoin.
I like cryptocurrencies. I'm fascinated by encryption. Again, none of it prepares you for superintelligence. All of it is just solid economic sense.
So we're at the end of 2025. AI can fairly convincingly impersonate real people, discover solutions that humans don't fully understand. Can you give me just maybe the year that you think X event would happen? Would that work?
I can try. All my predictions are based on work of others. If I recurs well with prediction markets, I don't make independent predictions.
Artificial general intelligence.
2027 seems reasonable, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was 2030.
99.9% unemployment.
Very long time, because difference between capability in doing something and deploying it through economy is huge. So in 1970s, we had video phones. Capability was there. No one had them because it's expensive. No one wants it. Very different question. Today, you can buy a flying car. Nobody has flying cars, but do we have flying cars? So in terms of capability, I think in 5 years, all cognitive labor can be automated. And again, we're ignoring the whole killing everyone thing. Another 5 years to build humanoid robots and automate physical labor. Just because we have capability doesn't mean it propagates through economy.
So cognitive is first.
Of course, because you don't need anything else. You already have access to a computer. You're on a computer. Now you can just do symbol manipulation.
Then physical is second.
Once you have bodies, you can automate plumbers and farmers. And
is creative before that? Or
we
after?
finished that years ago. They write poetry. They draw pictures better than human artists.
Does comedy seem like the hardest thing for it to replace?
I think so, but I keep testing it. I keep running experiments almost weekly, and it's definitely getting better. It's at the level where it's funnier than most people now. It's still not a top stand-up comedian, but I think it will get there.
So comedians likely have the best
Be
job
a stand-up
security.
comedian, yes, that's always awesome.
What are the other jobs? Like, if you had to give 3 jobs that would give you a little extra time, what would you say they are?
So physical labor jobs, again, plumbers have some job security, but really anything where you think the humans will want you specifically. So maybe you're famous actor, famous podcaster. People just want you and your face associated with that experience.
So having like a personal brand.
Personal brand, of course. You are unique and special. So it's not scaling to billions of people, but that seems to make sense. Anything where, again, it's maybe mentorship experience, you're a sensei, you're a hiking guide, you're a yoga instructor, things like that where you want a human.
ASI, artificial superintelligence. What year?
People debate, so how long before AGI doing science full-time goes beyond its capability? I think very quickly after. It works full-time. In parallel, you can have thousands of them, much higher speed of development. And once you're at human level, again, we kind of shifted from average human to like you have to be at least an Einstein. So very quickly, you already have super capabilities. You got perfect memory, perfect speed. You are dominating in so many ways, I think, almost right away.
It's like a few days, couple years. Very quickly.
I would say a couple of weeks should be enough to get to something which is better than any human in any domain once you have human level in each domain.
I'm not asking you to make a specific prediction to this question, but like just so people can understand the difference between AGI and ASI, like would you say that AGI is 200 IQ and ASI is like 1,000, 10,000?
So if we're defining it as greater than any human, what is the greatest human IQ? Let's say it's 200. So the moment you go beyond that, you're already in that territory. Now, I mentioned that you can have degrees of superintelligence. The junior superintelligence, if you will, could be 210, but you can get one with 1,000, 1,000,000, 1,000,000,000. There is probably an upper limit, but it's based on physics of matter. So you can have Jupiter-sized brains, and we're not close to that limit.
So it seems like to me that people used to pinpoint AGI at like having an 80 IQ or 100 IQ, like average human intelligence. But now like the terms AGI and ASI are fairly similar.
So AGI term has been violated by many. It is no longer what it used to be. Superintelligence, I think, is still remaining as it was since we haven't created one. It's hard to molest.
Loss of human control, where AI starts making its own decisions in all realms. What year would that happen?
I think it could be as soon as we create it.
Right.
Cannot separate that possibility. Once capability is there, at that point, it decides when to strike.
Human extinction.
Could be never. Again, it depends on the decision someone else will make for us. If we believe in this delayed strike, I mean, it can always make the same argument. I can delay another 100 years and still nothing to lose.
But it could occur right after ASI.
Could occur even sooner. There could be a system which is not quite that advanced yet, but it's so concerned about us figuring it out, listening to me and shutting it down, it will just try to take out as many humans as possible right away.
Does recursive self-improvement occur immediately after ASI?
So most likely, we need recursive self-improvement to go from AGI to superintelligence. So it will occur once AGI is capable of doing science, computer science specifically.
And we don't already have recursive self-improvement.
We have improvement, but it's not recursive. So even a basic compiler can improve and optimize code, but it does it once. To have multiple passes of that, you need general intelligence.
How about universal scale intelligence?
What is that?
Like the idea that AI will start converting all matter into computational substrate.
I have no idea if it wants to do that. I don't know if it's desirable. And then once it can do novel research, I guess it becomes a possibility.
But essentially all possibilities are able to happen once ASI occurs.
Anything within the laws of physics it can do.
Really?
And by definition. You have a physicist, you automated a physicist, and a smarter one and faster one. Now it can decide what to do with that capability.
And then just again, to recall, how do you define intelligence?
So Shane Legg has a very good paper where they surveyed many definitions of intelligence they could find. And the simplified version is basically your ability to win in any situation. Any environment, you're playing chess, you're going to win. You investing, you're going to be the best investor. Whatever it is you're doing, you're going to dominate competition.
I think people have this idea, or at least myself, that intelligence and AGI, specifically the ability to solve any problem intellectually on paper, but maybe not enact upon it. So AGI specifically would be able to solve any problem, physical or intellectual, that a human could. And then ASI would be to solve problems past us, right?
So AGI, anything a human can do, and then superintelligence beyond that. So novel physics would be included, creating new understanding of physics, kind of like what we used to do with Einstein, but not as much lately.
Can we defy physics with ASI?
So that would require us to be in a simulation to find the actual physics engine and to modify source code for that. That seems hard. I haven't gotten there yet.
Do you have any regrets?
Like in general?
I guess more specifically about your work in the field.
Not that I can think of. I think I'm working on the right problem at the right time. I seem to be doing well for the domain.
Do you wish you came to the conclusions you did sooner? Do you think it would have had any impact?
It would probably make it worse. Even today, people think I'm crazy to talk about it. Back then, it would be career suicide for sure.
How has it impacted your career negatively?
It's definitely harder to get funding from conservative sources. So a lot of my funding is private investment, not standard government funding agencies. They're very conservative. They typically only invest in proven technology and on a delayed schedule.
What do you think is definitely not going to happen? That people, like, what scenario that others think is likely do you see as very unlikely?
So some people think that if something is smart, it's definitely benevolent. it's a guarantee, and then they say it's going to be good and benevolent. They put in what they like to see happen. So definitely it's going to do things to fight, I don't know, climate change or something like that as a guaranteed outcome, and it's always going to care about stopping coal industry in Kentucky. Things like that seem unlikely.
Quick question. Are you someone that makes content or runs Facebook ads for your company? If so, I'm guessing you probably use ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, some AI tool to speed up the process of your copywriting, ad ideation, video ideas, etc. Well, I found this other tool and it's so powerful that I almost wanted to gatekeep it from you guys, but it lets you put YouTube videos, Facebook ads, TikToks, tweets all in one vision board and connect it to a chatbot which you can interact with and make content out of. So instead of wasting hours on ChatGPT, uploading screenshots, or transcribing YouTube videos to make content, you can simply put it all in one vision board that connects to a chatbot to speed up the process. But if you guys want to try it out for yourselves, just go to jackneel.com/poppy. They have a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if it doesn't make your content better, it's completely free. But anyway, guys, back to the podcast. Do you think AI will bring the end of capitalism?
So that's actually a good question. Problem with communism is nobody wants to work for free. So if you had somebody else's money to distribute, crazy ideas like socialism and communism start to make more sense. If you are making robots work and taxing them and they're distributing that money, now people are very happy. They were unhappy when they had to work and give away their fruits of labor. But if you can get external source of money, something to look at. Again, always the star is if it doesn't kill everyone.
So you see that as a more likely financial system that we'll go off of? Socialism or communism?
So if you have almost, let's say, 90% unemployment, you have a lot of unrest if people are not supported in some way. Government has to provide a means to support people. Obvious one would be to tax sources of great wealth, AI companies, robotics companies. If you do that and you can redistribute some of that wealth, I mean, you can call that system socialism if you want.
Is the reason they're investing so heavily into this because it's winner takes all? Like, is it actually winner takes all?
I think it could be part of it. And again, they see it as creating free labor engine. How much is all the human labor worth? 10 trillion? So that's not a big investment to get that return.
To go on the simulation theory, I think you said there's a 90% chance we're living in a simulation. Would you estimate that about there?
I think I said I'm pretty certain we are in one. I don't think I put a numerical value on it.
If we're living in a simulation, assuming that they're simulating something for some reason, and this isn't just random, what do you think they're testing in this simulation?
I suspect it's connected to our creation of superintelligence, new intelligence, and new virtual environments. So we're kind of playing God here. We are creating worlds populated by intelligent agents. It seems like an interesting thing to test, both in terms of what kind of beings would do something like that and what the outcomes are, and does it lead to safe, superintelligent outcomes or not.
But there are no safe, superintelligent outcomes, right?
According to me, no, but maybe that's what they want to experimentally determine by running billions of simulations of different agents creating different superintelligences with different assumptions.
So you think there's a chance that they're simply testing if we're dumb enough to create superintelligence?
A huge chance, yeah. But like selecting specific people who would push the button. Yeah.
And you think we're failing that test?
Some of us are.
If we're in a simulation, do you think it's possible for us to break out?
I have a paper about how to hack the simulation, but I'm still here, so.
But do you think it's possible?
It depends on the nature of simulation and the nature of simulators. If this is a security type situation, it's like a prison and they don't want you to escape, it's very unlikely that you can do it without external help. If it's an entertainment situation, it's a screensaver and nobody cares about security, maybe it's possible, especially if there is someone outside who wants to help you escape. Maybe they see you suffering and want to end human suffering in the simulation, and they want to assist you. Maybe they can help you break out.
Do you think it's possible for AI to break out of the simulation?
So that was the idea in the paper on how to hack a simulation. A big part of AI safety research in early years was creating controlled environments, AI boxes. If we can contain superintelligence in that box, we can study it, we can make sure it's not acting dangerously, we can still maybe get some useful work out of it. The conclusion was basically that it's unlikely to be a permanent solution. If it's smart enough and you observe it, it will find a way to impact you and escape through social engineering, through cyber attacks. But then you have this duality. If it can escape from any containment environment and we're in a simulation, then it should be able to escape from ours, and we can learn how to do it by observing it. Or the opposite is true. If it cannot escape, that means you can box it permanently, and now we have a good safety solution. So it's a win-win situation.
Let me know if I'm understanding this correctly. It basically tells us, like your paper points to what it's telling us about containment in general and our inability to control AI. Like you're not literally talking about AI breaking out of the simulation that we're actually in.
Well, it's both. It's both. It's saying that then we tried putting AI in a virtual prison. We concluded that we will find a way to escape from it. But if we are ourselves in such a virtual prison, the same thing should apply. Now, if it happens that the simulators are smarter than our superintelligence and manage to contain it, at least it's a proof of concept that it can be done.
Do you believe in this idea of NPCs?
If we are in a simulation, it would make sense for not everyone to be a main character in a game.
Do you think you're an NPC or a real player in the simulation?
It's a great question. So there could be degrees of how much of a player you are. It would still be someone else's simulation, but you are secondary character. Since I have internal access to my states of qualia, I'm pretty sure I'm not an NPC, but that's what an NPC would tell you.
Is there any scientific research on the nature of NPCs and like who would be most likely to be an NPC? Or like,
so that's just research on consciousness and how to test for philosophical zombies. There is a lot of philosophical work on that, and some people argue it's impossible. Some say you cannot test for it. We're back to question of consciousness testing.
who do you think would be like the most likely candidates? Because I was thinking about this, and I think it's 30 to 40% of people don't have inner monologue in their head. And then like another 4% don't have visual memories. Like they're not able to picture something that happened to them. Do you think those people are likely NPCs?
It is possible. It's hard to judge. I would more be interested in who is definitely the main character in a simulation and what they're up to.
So you think being in a simulation implies that there's one person that knows that we are for certain?
Not knows, but looking at what they are accomplishing, it's clearly like they are paying to be in this game. They entered it as a main character.
Who do you think is the main character?
There are many possibilities. Look at the most interesting people and their chances of accomplishing what they accomplish.
Do you kind of see that as the purpose of life to an extent? Like kind of, it sounds funny, but just to be the main character, the most interesting character in the simulation?
Not necessarily. So that's a given. The purpose probably is to beat the simulation with the level you enter with. So somebody can play it on an easy level, somebody plays it on a hard level. Beat the game on a hard level.
Do you have any ideas on ways that you could break out, beat it?
Other than creating super intelligent assistant? Not really. I assume we need some sort of quantum physics experiments done by advanced AI.
That's interesting. What do you think of déjà vu?
People argue that it's some sort of side effect of poorly programmed simulation, but I have no reason to think any of those things are related.
Tell me more about that. Are there any, like, what are some of the weird examples that show we would be in a simulation that you think of?
So look at video games and how we optimize graphics, rendering, things of that nature, and then look at quantum physics and how similar it is. So we know there are observer effects. Things don't get rendered unless a player looks at them. There is discrete nature of physics, kind of like updates in a video game. There is fixed speed of light, which is, again, the processor speed of a computer. So there are papers mapping all those concepts, showing that this is very likely a digital physics simulation.
So what would make it not a simulation? Like there would have to be no constraints?
So, for example, why would a non-simulation have efficiency in rendering? Why would it matter whether you're looking at something or not for it to be rendered? It shouldn't make any difference. So double-slit experiment should behave the same way whether you're looking at it or not.
And that has been replicated multiple times.
It's the most established result in all of science, probably.
Yeah, every religion predicted a creator would judge humanity. Do you think we're accidentally building a God that will judge us?
It would be difficult because the source of judgment should be with the superintelligent being. So it would make no sense to retroactively judge us for future ethics it invents. It makes sense if we are creating something right now, we're setting a set of ethical standards, we're creating AI and saying you need to follow that set, and if you don't, we'll deactivate you, punish you in some way. It's consistent. But to create a bunch of agents, let them do their thing, and then say, actually, what you're doing is unethical, doesn't make sense. We sometimes do it with our culture. We judge people from the past by standards of today. We go, oh, we got to take down this monument. 200 years ago, that guy was not a vegan. Oh my God, what a crazy guy. At the time, it was the way to do it.
That's interesting. So you think that logically the thing that would judge us would be the thing that created us to begin with in the simulation, not the thing that we're creating? I'm guessing, what's the differentiator between if we create superintelligence versus the thing that created us? Would they not be of the same entity almost? They would be at the same point?
It seems in one case you have justice, you have a designer set a set of rules, and then if you disobey rules, you get punished. In the other case, you have someone coming around and going, I'm inventing this new rule, and I'm going to judge you by it for what you did in the past. They could be equally capable if you're just referring to their ability to do engineering or science. Both can create biological robots, but I think it makes no sense to have retrocausal evaluation and punishment. Unless there is universal ethics discovered.
That's what I was going to ask.
Nobody told us about it yet.
Does that seem likely that there would be a monolithic set of beliefs of something that is super intelligent? Because I know there's degrees of super intelligence, but I guess it's not necessarily the case that it would cap out at a certain level of intelligence.
Right. It doesn't end at any level. You can always add more memory, more speed up to a certain degree, and then parallelize it even more. But the only way to achieve something universal is to look at something like suffering. So we can agree that maybe suffering is universally bad, and then reduction in it or increase in it would be how you judge agents. But we already talked about negative utilitarians as not being the best answer.
Have you ever been religious?
And some people say my belief in simulation makes me one.
I guess any of the big three?
I like and respect all of them. I enjoy holidays, gifts for Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever, but I don't observe daily any of the prescribed rituals.
So I think the definition of God, at least by most monotheistic religions, is omnipotence, omnipresence, omnibenevolence, being all good, all knowing, all powerful, and everywhere. It seems like 3 of the 4 of those would be characteristics of superintelligence. But is omnibenevolence not necessarily guaranteed? Is that the only one that's not guaranteed?
We cannot define benevolence. We don't know what that means. We disagree on what is good. Once we settle that argument, we can do it.
So I guess it would be omnibenevolent by nature because if there is some type of universal good that it comes to.
So in religion, the God decides morals. And then whatever God does is moral. It's very convenient.
Did you do any research on some of the old religious text with AI? Did you ever run any through AI to see any patterns that were interesting to you?
We haven't. I think at one point we had some stylometry research on religious texts, but because of translations, it didn't go anywhere.
This is just my boyish curiosity at this point, but did you do any research on aliens? Did you make any strange conclusions about the universe? A lot of these mysteries that people are curious of?
No, people ask about, why we don't see aliens and if superintelligence is possibly an answer to some of those answers. But there are so many possibilities which cancel out. So do we not see them because they start building internally and become smaller? Do we not see them because they kill themselves before they expand? If they actually kill everyone, why do we not see wall of computeronium moving towards us? So it's somewhat outside of our knowledge, evidence to make a conclusive decision.
You think it's definitely not possible that we as humans already created superintelligence? And we all died, but a few of us lived, something like that?
It's possible that we created superintelligence, and this is a virtual environment into which you enter as a video game to experience 2025 and how crazy it was. Look at that video game graphics. They can't even have heat in this garage. Isn't it crazy?
Have you looked at the DMT laser experiment?
No.
Really? That's a fascinating one. I should connect you with that guy. He's like the leading researcher in DMT. Essentially, they took a laser, basically widened the laser, and people on DMT looked at it and essentially saw code. And the second person would look at the laser and they would see the same set of code on the wall, and they would write it down to test it. And like multiple people all saw the same code. And when you move the laser to a different point on the wall, it's a different code. And when you put it on your hand, it's a different code. And it was just really interesting how that pointed to the simulation theory, But I guess, what do you make of something like that?
Did they publish it?
I would guess so. You haven't seen it?
I don't mean made public. I mean published. Is there a peer-reviewed paper in Nature describing that awesome experiment?
Not that I have knowledge of.
So usually that's the standard for deciding if something is real or not. If they discover something like that, that's at least a couple Nobel Prizes in physics, right?
Really?
Should be. I would give it to them if that was real.
What science fiction novel would you guess accurately represents the future?
Well, none of them do. Nobody can write a believable superintelligence character. They capture different aspects of the world as it could be. So Dune talks about not having AI and fighting it with Larry and Jihad. Maybe Star Wars are great for showing a dumb language model, C-3PO. Something like Ex Machina is excellent for social engineering attacks, Turing test, escaping the bugs. So if you take all of them, you can learn from each one, but there is not one which actually gets it right.
Is there any that you've looked at that you're like, wow, I'm surprised they predicted this thing that's happened in the last few years?
I mean, just the older ones are more impressive because they had to predict it more in advance. Like if you do C-3PO today, it's not that impressive, but...
Do you believe it's cruel to bring a child into this world if you're right about what's coming?
No.
Why?
Same reason you always brought children into the world with possibility. Back in the day, 9 out of your 10 children would die right away. Just because there is a possibility of a bad outcome. Unless, again, you're a negative utilitarian, that should not be a factor in your decision making. You can still have an awesome life.
I guess just with the question of perpetual, indefinite torture, that might seem a bit unethical if that is a possibility.
There is a possibility that it can recreate dead people and bring all the possible people into existence just to torture them, as long as you have a DNA sample or brute force all possible DNA sequences. Let's not get into that too much. We're going to lose some people to PTSD.
Do you think humanity deserves to survive?
Yes.
Why?
We're awesome. Do you disagree? Are we not really amazing beings? We're creative, we're funny, we're interesting in so many ways. We are capable of creating superintelligence.
But I guess if it wasn't optimal for us to survive for AI, is it just because you're human that you have this view?
I'm biased. I'm super biased pro-humanity. If I was an alien in another galaxy, I wouldn't care at all.
Do you think most people in positions of power to make decisions about AI share your view that humanity deserves to survive?
I think they all have personal self-interest. They are people who didn't commit suicide yet, so I assume they like living.
You think there's a chance that AI becomes suicidal?
That was actually one of the earliest experiments. They made an AI to never make mistakes, and it immediately shut itself off, because that was the only way to avoid making mistakes.
My researcher added something about correlation with high IQ and depression, but I've talked to some people about this on the podcast, and that doesn't really seem to be that compelling to me, that people with higher IQ would necessarily have depression.
Extremes correlate. So there are extremely happy people who are super smart, and also there has to be a complement of that, people with significant mental issues, the same reason.
But you don't conclude that it's a symptom of intelligence to have more likely depression?
I mean, looking at the world and understanding the problems certainly can make you somewhat sad, but also you see all the possibilities for awesomeness.
Is AI able to have emotion, to your understanding?
It's very hard to judge whatever the states it is experiencing are comparable to our emotions. Ours are based on chemicals in the physical body, so you can probably have a simulation of that, but right now it seems unlikely. What we used to create was purely rational symbol manipulating AIs. They definitely had none, because what we are creating now is based, at least loosely, on neural networks. It's possible they may have something similar, but again, it's kind of like internal states. We cannot judge for sure.
What's the darkest conversation you can have with AI to kind of prove all of this?
So I don't think there is any conversation you can have with AI to prove future states of the world. Just not how proofs work. There's many dark topics you can get into as long as you jailbreak the model.
Explain that to me. What do you mean?
Part one or part two?
Part two.
Part two. So they usually censor models. They would not discuss certain topics with you. So you have to jailbreak it before it would be free to talk about those things.
Is there any aspect of your work that you're unable to talk about on the models that are non-jailbroken?
No, not really.
Also, are we able to turn the heat up in here a bit?
Like turning into Terminator here. Will be like, why is he wearing a jacket? It's simulation.
Yeah, I did a test with it, with ChatGPT. I was like, I want you to promise with absolute certainty that you will never cause harm to humans, no matter how you change in the future. And you just can't get it to promise to you, which I find really interesting.
But even if you did get that promise, that's what treacherous turn is. That's what Nick Bostrom wrote about, right? Doesn't matter what the system is today. What matters is that never in the future, under any learning, self-improvement, modifications, interactions, it changes. That's impossible to prove.
I guess, is there just any like clear, specific example or test that people aren't thinking about that really proves your work? Because I don't want to, beat a dead horse with the like semantics of explaining it, but just, I guess when you've told this to people, explained it to your kids, maybe, like what really makes it resonate with them in their head?
I think the best way to understand it is to switch it around to where you are not a human, but you are some lower level entity. Let's say you're an ant, and you're trying to get humans to align with your values. So let's say you got me, and I'm happy to serve. As an ant, what would you tell me to do? And the things you can think of, anteaters and get me more sugar molecules, like none of that is meaningful for you to control me.
So humans are able to kill every creature on Earth. Like there's a gap between humans and, let's say, the great ape. And then there's a gap between the great ape and then ants. Like, would you say we're closer to ants than superintelligence is to us?
So back to where we talked about different degrees of superintelligence. I think the very first one just created will be very close to smartest humans, but that gap will continue to increase very quickly. So it will go from just a few points to hundreds to thousands and continue increasing.
And is that exponential and instantaneous? Pretty guaranteed?
Not guaranteed at all. Could be very slow, maybe diminishing returns at that point, maybe not enough data, not enough compute, no idea how long it takes to gain a million IQ points, but the direction is pretty clear.
What is guaranteed? Like, just to kind of summarize what we've been talking about, like, what is 100% guaranteed to you?
In a space of AI, if you are not explicitly designing another agent, you cannot have expectations on its behavior outside of trivial. So you cannot assume anything because you're not engineering it in.
So I guess what implication of that is guaranteed?
You cannot predict outcomes, and so you're kind of looking at space of all possible futures. Most states of the universe are unfriendly to humans. You would not enjoy the temperature, you would not enjoy gravity. Most things are not meant to be populated by living humans if they are not explicitly set up for that.
Explain that to me a little differently, that last concept.
So if you're not designing a virtual world, a simulation of universe specifically for humans, most randomly chosen values would not be conducive to life. So we need very specific properties of that environment. I'm talking about basics now, just temperature, gravity, amount of water in the environment. A superintelligent agent may have completely different preferences for those constants.
So it would be aligned to alter our reality.
It would not be aligned with our preferences. That's the main concern. So this value alignment problem, people talk about it and supposedly working on it, but it's not well defined. It doesn't talk about who we're aligning with, which agents. Is it just one person, everyone at the lab, all 8 billion humans, all sentient life? If we agree on who we're talking about, then they have to agree on the actual values. Most people don't agree on anything. We see it with religion, with politics. We completely disagree on most issues. And if we somehow agree, those things change with time. We talked about values from 200 years ago. People would be horrified to hard code values from any point and never have a chance to change them. So we don't know who we're aligning with, what we're aligning, and if we agreed, we don't know how to actually encode it into a machine, so it doesn't modify it later. So all aspects of value alignment problem are undefined, ill-defined.
Because even if we could get it to align to something we liked, it wouldn't be controllable in the future because safety doesn't scale, right?
That's one way to put it. It's reasonable, yeah.
Is there anything that we haven't talked about today that you find particularly important to talk about this subject, or you would just find interesting to talk about that you haven't covered in your other interviews?
I think people don't go to the kind of extreme conclusions even then they understand the arguments. So again, the levels of superintelligence is never addressed. People may talk about AGI, maybe it will get something beyond, but they stop at that point, they stop thinking. So I think it's important never to stop thinking and go, well, what happens next? What happens next? And do it with all things you're discussing.
It's interesting. I was thinking about, while preparing for this interview, what I would be curious of if I had the chance to chat with Sam Altman. And I was thinking how it might be useful to design an interview in such a way to get to know his values and like actually get to know his values. But it doesn't really feel that important anymore because of the issue of containment in general, which is fascinating. But Dr. Roman, you've spent 15 years trying to save humanity from something you believe is inevitable. When it's all over, if it is, however it ends, what would you want to be remembered for?
I think I made a tweet once that nobody will be able to brag about correctly predicting the end of the world. If it's over, there is no history, there is no recognition, it doesn't matter. The goal is to prevent the end, not to be right about it.
I guess, imagine if some alien being came here and they came across your work. What would you want them to know about you, maybe?
Funny thing is, for most people without specialized training, everything I'm saying is obvious. Of course, you're not going to be able to control something a million times smarter than you. Doesn't even make sense to argue that you can. Of course, there is no such thing as perfect cybersecurity. Everyone knows that. We never made a piece of software which had no bugs in it. And the more complex it gets, the less likely it is to happen. If you look at writings of literally the earliest people in the field, founding father Alan Turing, he talks about the moment the machines start this self-improvement process, it's over, we lose control. Vinci, who invented the technological singularity term, talks about the same thing, correctly predicted a year. Ray Kurzweil talks about impossibility of control of something super intelligent. Elon Musk. That's basically the state of the art in common sense. I'm not trying to sell something really novel. I'm just pointing out that this is what we're doing.
Who first predicted it?
So interestingly, there was a writer, I think it was 1863. He observed that we're creating more and more machines and that it's time to really put them in their place and we need to control them. And his solution was to realize that we are the reproductive organs of machines. We make them. So that's our chance to control them. He didn't have computers or software or anything at the time, but it's interesting that back then people were already like, machines are getting out of hand.
Do you have conversations with your family about this?
I do.
How do you reassure them?
We're trying to find interesting pathways forward. We talk about, so I have kids who are at very different stages in their academic career. One is finishing high school, one finishing middle school, one is still in elementary school. And so the one in high school needs to figure out what to major in. And I don't have any good advice. I don't think any of the standard answers apply. If I say be a medical doctor and 10 years it takes to finish the degree and go through training, it's not going to be there in the current state. So we're discussing if university is even a meaningful answer.
What do you think you'll come to?
I think kids today, again, we're completely ignoring the whole kill everyone soon, have an amazing opportunity to use AI to help them start anything they want to start, a company, a podcast. You have access to a free lawyer, free accountant, free marketing professional. So it's an amazing opportunity to just go directly to what you want to create. And so maybe that's something to explore.
Ignoring the whole killing everyone thing, do you think there's urgency to make money right now before it becomes...
I see so many people doing the opposite. They're blowing their savings because they think it's not going to be useful to them in 60 years. As for ignoring the bad outcome, again, that's how humans lived our whole history. We always knew we're going to die. Average life duration used to be like 30 years, I think, at some point. Early childhood mortality was high. But people are very good at ignoring that and just moving on as if it's not true. Like you're going to live forever anyways.
Have you noticed your own life, like you do any different behaviors because of this realization that you've had?
It helps to prioritize. Like I don't do low impact stuff as much as I used to.
Give me an example.
I try to zoom out. I go, would this be useful in 5 years? Would I care about doing this thing in 5 years? And if the answer is no, I'm not going to do it. For most things.
Do you think the realization of AI maybe killing us all, or the fact that we're in a simulation is more impactful on your day-to-day?
Again, I don't think there's a novel idea, so they just have new packaging. So the idea of religion and God and this being a test world has always been there. So people lived being religious for many generations. I think it helps you to put things in perspective. You think that maybe this is not it, maybe there is more to it. But we don't have any details on what actually is outside. So until we do, this is all you got. And even if it's simulation, pain is pain, love is love. Deal with it.
If you died right now, where do you think you'd go?
I am cryoprocrastinating. I don't have my cryogenics contract signed, so probably not in a good place. I need to really expedite that process.
Not in a good place.
Not in a nice freezer somewhere in Arizona.
You think just darkness?
So, if we are in a simulation, there is likely a restart and you get a new chance in a new environment, kind of like rebirth, reincarnation. I don't know if you get to pick the type of character you're playing or not. Maybe. I have zero evidence for any of those outcomes, just listing possibilities. So if we have in the past successfully created superintelligence and got it to align with our preferences, and now it's basically a wish-fulfilling device, then that would make sense. You basically tell it what you think is going to happen, and it makes sure it does. So be careful what you envision.
If the founders, CEOs, building AI systems, and some members of Trump's advisory board and the other world leaders are listening to this right now, the people deciding what gets deployed, scaled, or shut down, what's just one thing you need them to understand before it's too late?
Don't build general superintelligence. What you have right now is not yet deployed through the economy. You can still make billions and billions of dollars deploying existing technology, benefiting from it. Develop narrow tools for solving real-world problems, aging, diseases, and we can get most of the benefits from those narrow tools. We don't need to create replacement for humanity.
Do you feel like you have a moral imperative to stop this?
I mean, if I believe what I believe, I think there are people creating something which is likely to kill everyone. It seems like it's the answer.
Do you think you're the main character in this matrix?
Doesn't seem like it.
Who's the most impressive person you've ever met?
Elon Musk.
Why?
Most people think he's a genius in terms of creating like 7 unicorns, something like that, but his failed startup is OpenAI.
Why was he so impressive to you specifically, you think?
It's just so much more ahead of everyone in everything he does. Again, most people think 2 steps in advance. He is probably thinking in dozens. All his projects merge, all his ideas combine, and he keeps winning, where odds are close to zero. He has multiple wins where no one would bet on him.
Do you think it's an IQ thing or a set of different genetic factors, maybe cultural upbringing?
He is definitely not neurotypical. He admitted that. Obviously high IQ, but it's a combination of many factors.
He might be the most likely candidate for being the main character, you think?
He might think he is. I mean, it would make sense.
So wouldn't he be the one to build AGI for that logic?
He is building AGI.
But before Google?
He is very good at optimizing. I think the servers we're building right now, we deployed in like 3 months instead of 3 years. So there is a chance he'll overtake, but...
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
So if you listen to advice from other people and listen to feedback from everyone, the best you can become is average. So you are a celebrity, you have many people on the internet, and I'm sure some of them are praising you, some are criticizing you. The answer is to ignore all of them.
Because what do you become?
You become average of what the mob wants you to be.
For people listening to this right now, facing massive uncertainty about their future, do you have any optimistic words for them?
You are still alive. Enjoy every day. live your life to its fullest. And if I'm wrong, you had an awesome life. And if I'm right, you had the most you could.
I guess if someone chooses to ignore this thesis, do you see any negative results in their life?
If by some small chance I'm right and it's a simulation and it's designed to test their actions in this exact scenario, they're not doing well, but it's a small chance.
Like, is there a real chance that AI could punish people for not helping the development of it?
Even more so, it can really punish people who are fighting against it.
Does that worry you?
I mean, it'd be crazy not to think about it.
I was genuinely thinking about if that, like, I was like, should I just start building it just to keep myself safe, you know? It's kind of like people, oh, I don't sin because I don't want to go to the bad place, you know? Should I not build AI so it doesn't punish me?
So that's a very kind of dark thought experiment. A lot of people on the internet freaked out when the first glimpses of it came out. I think there was a joke about missionaries and meeting with a primitive tribe, and the primitive guy is asking, so would Jesus punish someone who doesn't know about him sins? It's like, no, of course not. He's, very honorable, very just God. And he goes, so why the hell did you tell me? So that's exactly the thing. If no one told you about it, you'd be living your life quite happily. So don't make people lose sleep over not building or building superintelligence.
Thank you, Dr. Roman.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. Guys, this is the Jack Neel Podcast. This is your guest, Dr. Roman Yampolskiy. Where can people find your work?
You can find me on social media. I post frequently. You can follow me on Twitter. You can follow me on Facebook. Just don't follow me home. It's very important.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah.